The morning alarm echoed through the massive space station that housed the Galactic Defense Academy. Floating 3,000 kilometers above the planet Nexus Prime, the Academy was home to the brightest military minds from across the galaxy. Cadet Kim Jinwoo pulled on his standard-issue uniform, the fabric adapting to his human physiology, with a soft hum. Through his dormitory window, he watched sleek starfighters practicing formation maneuvers against the backdrop of twin purple. Sons! The corridors buzzed with alien languages as Jinwoo made his way toward the combat training hall. A group of Vorthak cadets slithered past, their reptilian scales catching the artificial light. Their forked tongues flicked out, tasting the air with obvious disdain as they sensed his human scent. Still can't believe they let mammals into combat. Training, one hissed, loud enough for Jinwoo to hear. Humans break if you look at them too hard. A towering granite warrior from the mineral worlds laughed, the sound like rocks grinding together. I heard one human cadet cried during zero gravity. Training last week, pathetic. Jinwoo kept walking, his face calm despite the familiar sting of their words. He'd been dealing with this for 6 months since arriving at the academy. Humans were newcomers to the galactic community, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Most alien species had been traveling between stars for millennia. The training hall doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a massive chamber that could simulate any battlefield environment in the galaxy. Today the setting was a standard combat arena, with reinforced floors designed to withstand the punishment from various alien physiologies. Holographic displays showed vital statistics and combat data streaming in real time. Park Minho waved from across the room where he stood with Lee Haeun and the other human cadets. There were only 12 humans in the entire academy, out of nearly 3,000 students. They stuck together, not out of fear, but because they understood each other's struggles in ways their alien classmates couldn't. Ready for another fun day of being everyone's favorite punching bag, Minho whispered, as Jinwoo joined them. Haeun adjusted her combat gear, checking the energy readings on her training weapons. At least the food synthesizers finally figured out how to make something that doesn't taste like recycled air filters. Their conversation was interrupted by heavy footsteps that made the metal floor vibrate. Commander Thaxmore entered the training hall, his massive frame casting shadows across the assembled cadets. The Krillian stood nearly 8 feet tall, his natural chitinous armor gleaming under the bright lights. 4 powerful arms moved with deadly grace, each one capable of crushing steel. His species had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill everything else, and it showed. "Cadets, attention!" His voice boomed through built-in vocal amplifiers in his throat. The various alien students immediately fell into formation, their diverse forms creating a bizarre but impressive sight. There were crystalline beings that clinked softly when they moved, gaseous entities contained in specialized environment suits, and massive insectoid warriors whose wings buzzed with nervous energy. Thaxmore's compound eyes swept over the assembled group, lingering on the small cluster of humans. His mandibles clicked together in what Jinwoo had learned was the Krillian equivalent of a dismissive snort. "Today's lesson focuses on natural combat advantages," the commander announced, his 4 arms spreading wide for emphasis. "Some species are born warriors, evolved through millions of years of survival challenges. Others," his gaze fixed directly on Jinwoo, "are better suited for technical support roles." A murmur of agreement rippled through the non-human cadets. The granite warriors nodded their boulder-like heads, while the Vorthak cadets hissed their approval. Even the normally peaceful ethereal beings seemed to float a little higher in their containment suits, as if distancing themselves from the humans. "The galactic military has always recognized that different species have different strengths," Thaxmore continued, beginning to pace around the training circle. "The Vorthak excel at infiltration with their natural camouflage. The granite provide unbreakable defensive lines. The Zephyrian scouts can phase through solid matter." Each species mentioned puffed up with pride as their abilities were acknowledged. The training hall filled with various sounds of approval, clicks, hisses, harmonic tones and grinding noises that served as applause in different cultures. "But some species," Thaxmore stopped directly in front of the human section, "lack any natural advantages whatsoever. No armor, no natural weapons, no special abilities, fragile bone structure, weak muscle density, limited sensory capabilities. Jinwoo felt his teammates tense beside him. Hyun's jaw tightened, while Minho's hands slowly clenched into fists. Around them, alien cadets began to whisper and point, their various forms of laughter creating a cacophony that echoed off the training hall walls. Human cadet, Thaxmore's voice cut through the noise like a plasma blade. Kim Jinwoo, step forward. The hall fell silent, except for the distant hum of the space station's life support systems. Jinwoo could feel hundreds of alien eyes focused on him, waiting to see what the fragile human would do when faced with a direct challenge from one of the Academy's most feared instructors. Jinwoo stepped into the center of the training arena, his boots clicking against the reinforced metal floor. The sound seemed to echo louder than it should have in the suddenly quiet hall. Every alien cadet leaned forward, eager to witness what they expected would be a quick demonstration of human weakness. Commander Thaxmore began circling him slowly, his four massive arms swaying with each deliberate step. The Krillian's natural armor plates scraped against each other, creating a sound like grinding metal that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest cadets. His compound eyes never left Jinwoo, studying the human like a scientist examining an interesting but ultimately harmless specimen. "Look at you," Thaxmore growled, his voice carrying easily through the training hall's acoustics. "Soft skin that tears at the slightest touch, bones that snap under pressure, no claws, no fangs, no protective shell. Your species conquered your phone world through what exactly?" "Luck?" A ripple of alien laughter filled the air. The Vorthak cadets produced their characteristic hissing chuckle, while the granite warriors made sounds like boulders tumbling down a mountainside. Even the usually dignified ethereal beings seemed to shimmer with amusement in their containment suits. Jinwoo turned slowly to keep the commander in sight, his movements fluid and controlled. "Commander, every species develops according to their environment. Humans learn to survive through cooperation, intelligence, and adaptability." "Cooperation?" Thaxmore's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Krillian equivalent of mocking laughter. "You mean hiding behind others when danger appears? Intelligence? Any species can build tools when they have enough time and safety." The commander suddenly stopped, circling and faced Jinwoo directly. "But adaptability? That's what interests me most about your species' claims. You say humans adapt, yet here you stand, unchanged, facing a superior warrior. Where is this legendary adaptability now?" From across the training hall, Instructor Veltan, a tall Altarian with silver skin and telepathic abilities, observed with professional interest. She had served in 3 galactic conflicts and had seen many species claim special abilities they couldn't demonstrate when tested. Beside her, Combat Instructor Raxtog, a battle-scarred veteran from the insectoid Mantari species, tapped his razor-sharp claws against his datapad with anticipation. "The human speaks of technique," called out a Vorthak cadet named Siskmore from the crowd. "What technique can overcome natural superiority? Our ancestors evolved hunting in the shadows of gas giants. We were born predators." "My people shaped mountains with our bare hands," boomed a granite warrior. "Human tools would break against our skin." Thaxmore raised one of his 4 arms for silence. "You hear them, human. Every species here earned their place through proven capabilities. The Vorthak can become invisible to most senses. The granite can survive in environments that would instantly kill your kind. The Zephyrian scouts can phase through solid matter to gather intelligence." The commander gestured toward a group of crystalline beings whose bodies refracted light in beautiful, deadly patterns. "The Prism Warriors can focus energy into weapons that cut through starship hulls. The Void Swimmers can survive in the vacuum of space without life support." Each species mentioned straightened with pride, their various forms of acknowledgement creating a symphony of alien sounds. Wingbeats, crystalline chimes, harmonic frequencies that resonated through the metal floor, and the deep rumbling of creatures whose voices operated on frequencies barely audible to human ears. "And what do humans bring to this gathering of warriors?" Thaxmore continued, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the hall. "Stories of adaptability that no one has witnessed, claims of intelligence, that built ships centuries after other species traveled between stars. Technique that... He paused dramatically, letting his gaze sweep over the human cadets clustered at one side of the training area. Park Min-ho stood with his arms crossed, his face carefully neutral, but his eyes burning with suppressed anger. Lee Hae-on watched Jin-woo with concern, her hand resting near her training equipment, as if ready to intervene if needed. Technique that has never been tested against true galactic-level opposition, Thaxmore finished. The training hall's environmental systems hummed quietly as the tension built. Automated medical drones hovered near the ceiling, their sensors already calibrating for potential injuries. The holographic displays around the arena began showing combat analysis readouts, preparing to record whatever was about to happen. Jin-woo took a slow breath, feeling the weight of not just his own reputation, but that of his entire species resting on his shoulders. He thought about the long journey that had brought humans to this moment, the decades of reaching out to galactic civilization, the careful negotiations to gain acceptance into the Academy, the dreams of proving that humanity deserved a place among the stars. "Commander," he said, his voice steady and clear, "with respect, you're making the same mistake that many species made when they first encountered humans on Earth." Thaxmore's head tilted, his compound eyes reflecting curiosity. "And what mistake is that? You're judging us by what we lack instead of what we've learned to do without it." The alien cadets erupted in fresh laughter and jeering sounds. A massive insectoid warrior buzzed his wings dismissively. "Empty words from a creature with no sting." "Prove it then," Thaxmore declared, spreading all four of his arms wide. "Show us this legendary human adaptability. Demonstrate these mysterious techniques. Words are wind, human. Action reveals truth." The commander's voice echoed off the training hall walls as he issued his final challenge. "Face me in combat, or admit that humans belong in the technical divisions, maintaining equipment for real warriors." Instructor Veltan leaned forward. With interest, her telepathic abilities picking up the intense emotions radiating from both participants. She had sensed something unusual about the human cadets since their arrival, a mental discipline that was rare among younger species, kind of focused determination that reminded her of much older galactic civilizations. Jin-woo looked across the arena at his fellow humans. Hae-on gave him a small nod of encouragement, her eyes conveying complete confidence in his abilities. Min-ho mouthed something that looked like, "Show them," his fists still clenched at his sides. The moment stretched out, filled with the quiet hum of life support systems and the barely audible whispers of hundreds of alien cadets, waiting to see if the human would back down or step up to face one of the Academy's most formidable instructors. "I accept," Jin-woo said quietly, his voice carrying clearly through the sudden silence. The training hall transformed into an arena as alien cadets pressed forward, forming a tight circle around the combat zone. The automated systems responded to the gathering crowd, adjusting the lighting to focus on the center ring while medical drones descended from the ceiling, their sensors scanning for potential injuries. Holographic displays flickered to life around the perimeter, ready to record every millisecond of what everyone expected would be a very brief demonstration. Thaxmore moved to the center of the circle, his 8-foot frame towering over everything around him. The Krillion's natural armor caught the arena lights, each chitinous plate gleaming like polished obsidian. His forearms flexed and stretched, joints popping with sounds like breaking tree branches. When he dropped into his species' traditional combat stance, the metal floor actually vibrated under his weight. "Look at the size difference," whispered a Vorthak cadet to his companion, their reptilian heads swaying as they spoke. "The human doesn't even reach the commander's shoulder." A cluster of granite warriors nodded their massive stone heads in agreement. "This will be over before it starts," one rumbled, his voice like an avalanche. "Humans are too small, too weak. Their bones will snap like twigs." The ethereal beings floated higher in their containment suits, their gaseous forms shimmering with what appeared to be excitement. Even the usually stoic Zephyrian scouts had gathered to watch, their crystalline bodies refracting the arena lights into rainbow patterns across the walls. Jin-woo stood calmly in his designated position, appearing impossibly small next to the Krillian commander. His human classmates watched from the edge of the circle, their faces tense with worry. Hyun's hands were clenched so tightly her knuckles had turned white, while Minho kept checking the medical drone positions as if calculating how quickly they could reach their friend. "Final chance, human," Thaxmore called out, his compound eyes fixed on Jinwoo. "Withdraw now and accept your species' proper place in support roles. No shame in acknowledging natural limitations." The alien crowd murmured agreement, various species adding their own sounds of approval. Clicking mandibles, hissing tongues, the harmonic tones of crystal beings, and the deep rumbling of creatures whose vocal cords operated on frequencies that made human teeth ache. Jinwoo simply shook his head, his movements fluid as he settled into what looked like a deceptively casual stance. His feet were positioned shoulder-width apart, his weight balanced evenly, his arms relaxed at his sides. To most observers, he looked completely unprepared for combat. Instructor Veltan studied the human's posture with growing interest. Her telepathic abilities couldn't penetrate human minds fully. Their species had natural mental barriers that even surprised experienced telepaths. But she could sense something unusual. Where she expected fear or aggression, she detected only calm focus and what felt like careful calculation. "Combatants ready?" called Combat Instructor Raxtog, his razor-sharp claws gleaming as he raised one arm. The insectoid warrior had overseen thousands of training matches, but something about this one felt different. The human stillness reminded him of predators he had encountered on deep space reconnaissance missions, creatures that appeared harmless until the moment they struck. Thaxmore's 4 arms spread wide, each one capable of crushing steel. His species had evolved on a world where everything was armored, everything was deadly, and only the strongest survived. He had never lost a combat match at the academy, had never even been seriously challenged by any cadet regardless of species. "Begin!" Raxtog's voice echoed through the arena. What happened next would be analyzed, replayed, and studied for years afterward by military strategists across the galaxy. Thaxmore exploded forward with the devastating speed that made Krillion's legendary warriors. His massive frame covered the distance to Jinwoo in a single bound, all 4 arms converging on the small human target. The attack was perfectly executed, a classic Krillion assault that had overwhelmed countless enemies across multiple star systems. But Jinwoo was no longer where the attack was aimed. Instead of retreating or trying to block the incoming assault, the human stepped diagonally forward and to the right, moving into the space where logic said no sane creature would go, directly toward the attacking predator. His movement was so smooth and precise, it looked almost like dancing, his body dropping low while maintaining perfect balance. Thaxmore's primary arm, carrying enough force to dent starship hulls, swept through empty air where Jinwoo had been standing a fraction of a second earlier. The commander's momentum carried him forward, his other 3 arms still converging on what he thought was his target's position. Jinwoo's hands moved with surgical precision. As Thaxmore's primary arm passed over him, the human caught the limb, just above the wrist joint, his fingers finding the exact pressure points where chitin met softer tissue. His pivot was textbook perfect, using the commander's own forward momentum against him. The joint lock was a masterpiece of biomechanical leverage. Jinwoo's entire body became a fulcrum, applying pressure at the precise angle needed to overcome even Krillion bone density and natural armor. Years of human martial arts development, refined through centuries of warfare against opponents with identical physical capabilities, had created techniques that maximized efficiency over raw strength. The crack of breaking chitin echoed through the suddenly silent arena like a gunshot. Thaxmore's roar of pain and shock filled the training hall, a sound that registered on frequencies across the entire spectrum. The massive commander collapsed, to one knee, his damaged wrist hanging at an unnatural angle as he clutched it with his other arms. His compound eyes were wide with disbelief and agony. The holographic displays showed the elapsed time. 4 seconds exactly. Jinwoo stepped back, smoothly, his breathing steady and controlled. He hadn't even broken a sweat. Around him, the arena had erupted into chaos as alien cadets processed what they had just witnessed. Voices in dozens of languages filled the air, creating a cacophony of shock, disbelief, and sudden respect. Medical. Drones swarmed toward Thaxmore, their healing beams already working to stabilize the commander's injury. Emergency medical technicians materialized from hidden panels in the walls, their equipment designed to handle the unique physiologies of multiple species. The granite warriors stood in stunned silence, their massive forms motionless as they tried to comprehend how something so small had defeated something so powerful. The Vorthak cadets had gone completely still, their reptilian instincts recognizing the presence of an apex predator they had previously dismissed. Even the ethereal beings had stopped their constant movement, floating motionless in their containment suits as they processed the impossible scene before them. Hyon and Minho pushed through the crowd toward their friend, their faces showing relief mixed with pride. Around them, alien cadets who had been mocking humans minutes earlier now stared at Jinwoo with expressions ranging from fear to fascination. The 4-second takedown had changed everything. The medical bay erupted into controlled chaos as emergency. Teams swarmed around Commander Thaxmore. Advanced healing drones hovered over his injured wrist, their blue-white energy beams working to reconstruct the damaged chitin and underlying tissue. The Krillian's vital signs displayed on holographic monitors showed elevated stress levels, but what concerned the medical staff most was the look of complete bewilderment in his compound eyes. Dr. Zixara, the Academy's chief medical officer, ran her scanner over the injury with practiced efficiency. Her 6 arms moved in perfect coordination as she worked, her insectoid species having evolved specifically for precision tasks like surgery and mechanical repair. "Clean break at the joint," she announced to her team. "Precise application of leverage at the exact stress point. Whoever did this understood Krillian anatomy better than most Krillians." The training hall had cleared somewhat, but clusters of alien cadets lingered in the corridors outside, their conversations creating a buzz of excitement that echoed through the station's metal walls. Word was spreading through the academies, communication networks faster than a subspace transmission. In the security office 3 levels above, Academy Commander Velthar sat with her senior staff, replaying the combat footage for the 7th time. The holographic display showed the 4-second encounter from multiple angles, each replay revealing new details about the human's technique. "Freeze it there," Velthar commanded, pointing at the moment when Jinwoo caught Thaxmore's arm. Her silver skin shimmered as she leaned forward to study the image more closely. Look at his positioning. He knew exactly where the commander would be before the attack even began. Combat instructor Raxtog clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. The human read the entire assault pattern in advance. This wasn't luck or reflexes, this was complete tactical awareness. "Run the sensor data on the human's vital signs during the encounter," ordered weapons instructor Kethavar, her crystalline form refracting the light from the holographic display. "I want to see his stress levels, adrenaline output, everything." The data appeared on a secondary screen, showing a graph that made every instructor in the room pause. Jinwoo's heart rate had actually decreased during the combat. His breathing had remained perfectly steady, and his neural activity showed the calm focus patterns typically associated with deep meditation rather than life-or-death combat. "This is impossible," whispered Raxtog. "No species fights better when they're calmer. Combat requires aggression, rage, the drive to survive." Meanwhile, back in the training hall, Jinwoo found himself surrounded by a growing crowd of alien cadets who had previously ignored or mocked him. A crystalline Zephyrian scout approached hesitantly, her body chiming softly as she moved. "How did you do that?" she asked, her voice creating harmonic frequencies that resonated through the metal floor. "Commander Thaxmore has defeated cadets from every warrior species in the Academy. Some of us can't even make him step backward." Before Jinwoo could answer, a massive granite warrior pushed through the crowd. His rock-like features showed confusion and what might have been the beginning of respect. "My people have fought Krillians in 3 major conflicts. We used siege weapons and overwhelming force. You used nothing, just your bare hands. And you're so small," added a Vorthak cadet, his reptilian head tilting as he studied Jinwoo like a fascinating puzzle. "My species hunts creatures 10 times our size by using stealth and patience. But you defeated something larger than you in direct combat. This should not be possible." Hyon and Minho flanked their friend, both wearing expressions of fierce pride. They had trained with Jinwoo back on Earth, had seen him demonstrate these techniques countless times, but even they were impressed by how perfectly he had executed the move under such pressure. "Cadet Kim," came a voice that made the entire crowd fall silent. Academy Commander Velthar approached with measured steps, her telepathic abilities picking up the emotional chaos surrounding the human. "I need to speak with you." The crowd parted, respectfully as the distinguished Altarian approached. Velthar had served in the galactic military for over 2 centuries, had seen combat against pirates, hostile species, and rogue AI fleets. Her presence commanded instant respect from every cadet in the academy. "Your training background?" she asked directly, her mental barriers preventing any attempt to read Jinwoo's thoughts without permission. "Standard human military preparation, sir," Jinwoo replied, standing at attention. "All human military personnel receive comprehensive combat training designed to overcome physically superior opponents." Velthar's eyebrows rose slightly. "All human military personnel? This level of skill is standard for your species?" "Yes, sir. We developed these techniques out of necessity. Human conflicts taught us that victory goes to whoever can adapt fastest, not whoever is strongest." The implications of this statement rippled through the gathered cadets like a shockwave. If what the human was saying was true, then every human, in their military, possessed combat skills that could potentially defeat the galaxy's most feared warrior species. Hours later, the medical bay's regeneration tanks hummed quietly as they worked to repair Thaxmore's wrist. The commander sat in a specialized chair designed for his species, his other 3 arms resting on the armrests, while medical nanobots reconstructed his damaged joint. Jinwoo appeared in the doorway, having been granted permission to visit by the medical staff. The training hall had finally cleared, and he wanted to check on his former opponent's condition. "You came to see if your victim survived?" Thaxmore asked, though his tone held no anger. Instead, there was curiosity and something that sounded almost like admiration. "I came to make sure you understood that I meant no disrespect, Commander," Jinwoo replied, entering the medical bay. "The challenge was issued, and I responded. Nothing more." Thaxmore studied the human with his compound eyes, seeing him clearly for the first time. "Your species fights differently than anything we've encountered. When Krillians fight, we rely on our natural advantages. When granite warriors fight, they use their incredible strength. When Vorthak fight, they use stealth and surprise." Hikae flexed his healing wrist experimentally. The regeneration cast allowing limited movement, but you fought like you expected to be smaller and weaker, like you had planned for it. Jinwoo nodded slowly. "We had to learn, Commander. Humans spent thousands of years fighting other humans. We couldn't rely on being stronger or faster or more armored than our enemies, because they were exactly like us. So we learned to use technique, timing and leverage instead." The Krillian was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. "Your entire species learned to fight as if every opponent was equal to you?" "Or superior to us," Jinwoo confirmed. "It made us very good at finding weaknesses and exploiting them quickly." Thaxmore's mandibles clicked slowly as understanding dawned. "You didn't defeat me despite being smaller and weaker. You defeated me because you were smaller and weaker, and your species learned to turn that into an advantage." The conversation would mark the beginning of a fundamental shift in how the galaxy viewed humanity, though neither of them realized it at the time. The transformation began within hours of the incident. As news of the 4-second takedown spread through the Academy's communication networks, the entire social dynamic shifted like tectonic plates, realigning on a planet's surface. Alien cadets who had spent months treating humans as curiosities or weaklings now found themselves studying every human they encountered with newfound interest. In the dining hall, where species typically segregated themselves by dietary requirements and social comfort zones, something unprecedented happened. A group of Vorthak cadets approached the human table during the evening meal cycle, their reptilian forms moving with uncharacteristic hesitancy. "We wish to understand," hissed their leader, a cadet named Silvash, whose scales shimmered with nervous energy. "Your combat method. It defies everything we know about warfare. Hayon looked up from her synthesized protein meal, surprised by the respectful tone. Just yesterday, these same cadets had been making jokes about human fragility. "What would you like to know? How do you train to be weaker?" asked another Vorthak, his forked tongue flicking out as he processed the strange concept. "Our instructors teach us to maximize our natural advantages: stealth, speed, venomous strikes, but you seem to train as if you have no advantages at all." The conversation attracted attention from nearby tables. Granite warriors leaned in to listen, their massive stone-like bodies creaking as they shifted position. Even the ethereal beings floated closer in their containment suits, their gaseous forms shimmering with curiosity. 3 days after the incident, something even more remarkable occurred. Commander Thaxmore, his wrist still wrapped in a regeneration, cast appeared at the human dormitory level during off-duty hours. The Krillion's massive frame filled the corridor as he approached Jinwoo's quarters, drawing stares from every cadet who witnessed the unprecedented visit. "I request instruction," Thaxmore said without preamble when Jinwoo answered his door. The words seemed to cause the commander physical pain, his mandibles clicking with obvious discomfort. "Your technique. I need to understand it." Jinwoo stepped into the hallway, aware that their conversation was being observed by dozens of hidden watchers. "Commander, you don't need to—" "Yes, I do," Thaxmore interrupted, his compound eyes showing an intensity that had nothing to do with aggression. "In 40 years of combat, across 7 different star systems, nothing has ever moved faster than I could react. Your species breaks every rule of warfare I've ever learned." The training sessions that followed became legendary throughout the academy. In a small auxiliary combat room, Jinwoo began teaching the fundamentals of human martial arts to the same commander who had humiliated him just days earlier. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. "The key is momentum redirection," Jinwoo explained, demonstrating with slow, controlled movements. "When someone larger attacks you, they're committing their mass and energy to a specific direction. Instead of opposing that force directly, you guide it where you want it to go." Thaxmore watched intently, his 4 arms moving in mimicry of Jinwoo's motions. "This requires prediction. You must know where the attack will be before it arrives." "Exactly. That's why human combat training emphasizes pattern recognition and behavioral analysis. We study how different body types move, how momentum affects balance, how leverage points change based on anatomy." Word of these private sessions spread through the academy like wildfire. Within a week, Jinwoo found himself facing requests from cadets of every species. The training halls that had once echoed with mockery now buzzed with genuine curiosity about human combat techniques. Academy Commander Velthar made the decision to formalize the instruction. "Cadet Kim," she announced during a general assembly, "you will be assigned as an auxiliary combat instructor. Your methods will be integrated into our standard curriculum." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Sign-up lists for human combat technique classes filled within hours. Species that had never shown interest in learning from others suddenly wanted to understand how creatures they had dismissed as weak could be so devastatingly effective. Hayon found herself teaching strategic analysis to mixed groups of alien cadets, explaining how humans approach tactical problems when they couldn't rely on superior firepower or natural abilities. "We learned to think 3 moves ahead because we had to," she told a class of fascinated Zephyrian scouts. "When you're not the strongest or fastest, you have to be the smartest." Minho specialized in teaching adaptive techniques, showing alien cadets how to modify their natural fighting styles to incorporate human principles. "Your species can phase through matter," he told a group of Zephyrian cadets. "Now imagine combining that ability with human timing and leverage principles. You become unpredictable in ways your enemies can't counter." The changes went beyond combat training. In starship piloting classes, human cadets began sharing their approach to crisis management, demonstrating how they had learned to stay calm and analytical under extreme pressure. In tactical planning exercises, they showed how thinking like the underdog could reveal strategies that conventional military doctrine missed. The Academy's performance metrics began showing remarkable improvements. Alien cadets who incorporated human techniques into their training showed increased adaptability, better problem-solving under stress, and improved performance in scenarios that required unconventional solutions. Months passed, and the graduation ceremony approached. The Great Assembly Hall filled with representatives from dozens of worlds, military officials from across the galaxy, and families who had traveled vast distances to witness their young warriors receive their commissions. As the ceremonies concluded, Thaximor approached Jinwu one final time. The Krillian's wrist had healed completely, but more importantly, his entire bearing had changed. Where once he had carried himself with the arrogant confidence of a superior predator, he now moved, with the measured respect of someone who had learned humility. "I understand now why your species survived long enough to reach the stars," Thaximor said, extending his once broken hand. "Every other species in the galaxy evolved to dominate their environment through natural advantages. You evolved to overcome any environment through pure adaptability." Jinwu clasped the offered hand, noting how the commander's grip was firm but respectful, rather than challenging. "We just learned that survival isn't about being the strongest. It's about being able to change when circumstances require it. You turn weakness into strength," Thaximor continued, "not just in combat but in thinking, in planning, in approaching every challenge. Your species doesn't just adapt to problems. You transform problems into advantages." The graduation proceeded with unprecedented ceremony for the human cadets. For the first time in Academy history, cadets from other species requested assignment to units with human officers. The galaxy's military academies began sending requests for human instructors. What had started as a 4-second combat demonstration had evolved into a fundamental shift in galactic military thinking. As the newly commissioned officers prepared to take their positions throughout the galaxy's defense forces, they carried with them not just their own species' natural abilities, but also the hard-won wisdom of a species that had learned to turn every disadvantage into victory. The human cadets graduated with highest honors, their success measured not by their ability to intimidate or overpower, but by their demonstration that true strength came from the capacity to adapt, learn, and transform any challenge into an opportunity for growth. The end.